WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, tasting rare and, well, exotic whiskeys. The very first Irish whiskey that is peated, made from Irish barley and Irish peat. Torf, as it's also called. Now, Connemara is made with Scottish barley and Scottish peat. This is literally the first bottle of, together with its sister, this is the very, very first time that we have Irish barley, Irish then malt. Now, the problem is there is no one actually at the moment willing to malt the peat in Ireland. So Waterford actually had to go over to Scotland and get it done there. So we have a whiskey base number. We are at 2166665. And we're running about 79 euros for this bottle at the moment. So if you watch any of my Waterford videos, you know I love to share my screen, and that's what we're going to do now. All right, so you go to waterfordwhiskey.com, you go up to the right-hand corner to the terroir code, and then you type in P009E0101. Where do I find the code? It's on the back of each bottle. Each bottle has a special a code. Now, each batch has a special code, not each bottle. So I'm just going to enter here, in the very first thing that I encounter when I do this, peated. Single farm origin from Fenniscourt 1.1. So just a few little things that are important at the moment. PPM 38. So it's not an odd bag, but it is, there's a lot of peat going on here. The second thing we need to know is it's actually going to be 3 years, 8 months, and 5 days of age. Not very old. So there are about almost 12,000 bottles worldwide. So now, what I thought, I learned something here, our Arcadian barley. I thought Arcadian barley was the old barley types. This is not an old barley type. All right, from our Secret Garden of Delights, explores the flavors, intensity, and honesty of old ways. So the Arcadian, yes, but the barley, no. Out of necessity, since the dawn of time, peat or turf has been the primary fuel source in rural Ireland, with its sweet pungency familiar to generations gathered around the hearth of ancient thatched cottages. The same diffused aromas cloaked barley dried over peat smoke by illicit distillers, a custom that died out in the 1850s. So basically in Ireland, we have not used peat smoke for almost 170 years. That's a long time. But hey, a lot of people would say we need this. Now, what we have here is the farm, the lush inland terroir of Fenniscourt in County Carlow has been farmed by the Bryan family since 1870. Very, very good. Now, I actually looked up this Elton series soils. I didn't get very much further. There's just different categories of soil, and Elton seems to be a very sandy type of soil. All right, they're very close to the River Barrow. And for this whiskey, this is the thing we need to understand. Their barley, all right, that was grown in Ireland. It was kiln dried during the malting in Scotland by heat generated from, and now we have sphagnum rich peat from Neil Carroll's cutting in the county Kildare. Now they took the peat, they took the barley, they sent it over to Scotland. All right, so, and therefore the terroir's character suited a medium peating intensity of 38 ppm. Now, if we take a look down here, we will see that this was actually grown 2017, harvested August 2017. It arrived at the cathedral in August of 2017, 1 day later, but it didn't make its way to Scotland for almost a year. 10 days are missing, so 365, so 350 days it just sat in the cathedral. Apparently, something had to be worked out. And then it finally, after being malted, 3 weeks later, it's at the distillery. A week later, they actually start the fermentation. A week later, they start the distillation. They distill for a whole week. So in order to have 12,000 bottles, you need to distill for a week. So if I distill 50 weeks a year, so 12,000 times 5 is going to be 600,000 bottles I can produce. Not bad. And then 3 days later, they fill the bottles at the warehouse. What I love is the marriaging of the cask. So we take 26th of May. So basically the time between the 20th of the September 2018 and the 26th of May 2022 is the time it's spent in the cask, and that is the true age if we count the days like Waterford does of the whiskey. And then 3 months later, they actually bottle it. All right. So if you want to know where Fenniscourt is, so Ireland, we zoom in. Now I have another question. If we're going to have a single farm bottling, all these dots are the fields. Is it okay to call it a single farm if the farm is about 20 kilometers away? It's not 20 kilometers. It's 3. I'm sorry. If it's 3 kilometers away. That's one of the things. How close does that have to be a single farm? All right, good. Here we see the soil. And now we move down to our 187 hours of fermentation. No chart to see what the, no tasting wheel. This tastes totally different than everything else Waterford has ever made due to the peat influence. Now, we have a total of 36 casks. I won't bore you with all the casks, but I'm going to mention the premier French. So that's from the Chateau Latour. But then we have to talk about what are we using here. We're using Zoltan casks here. All right, think black pits from Teeling, Zoltan. Peated, not Irish peat, not Irish malt. So then we have some virgin U.S. oak, and then we have the first fill, some Buffalo Trace, some Jack Daniels. And then what I really think is weird is the following. So at the very end, we have these 3 things here. It's almost as if it was an afterthought. All right. So it's like, oh, we need a little bit more virgin oak. Throw in one more cask. Oh, we need a French cask. Throw in a French cask. And then we have the Vin Doux Naturel. 500 liters is a butt of Oloroso. All right. So the first fill, US 33%, Virgin 18, Premium French 20, and the V Doux Naturel, the most stupidest of all categories I know of, because they put Oloroso and Zoltan in the same category, which they're not, would be this. All right. So what I did is I actually put all that information in my Excel sheet. So they actually filled casks for this bottling, and they took 7,744.58 liters of alcohol. About 8% was Oloroso, and about 25 almost percent was Zoltan. All right, so Zoltan is a dominating moment here. Do I get it? There is an interesting sweetness. I wish I don't have the Teeling black pits. If anyone's going to compare this in any of their videos, find the Teeling black pit, compare it, because that would be the easiest comparison there. So if I'm going to describe this, I do get a very, it's almost like a warm smoke at the beginning. Now, I was at the Bowmore Distillery. We went up to the malting room, into the smokehouse, and we were actually up there. And that's the type of smokiness I get here. That's interesting. There's a little bit of a spice. Let's go for thyme or pepper. There's a pear definitely in the background. Maybe a little bit of like a sweet of a tangerine peel. All right, let's try. This is a bottle that I would almost be willing to drink. The smoke turns cold, a little bit of an ash in my mouth. It's not burning tires. It's not the smoke bacon that we know. This is actually that peat moss. And I do get a little bit of that. It's not burning tires, but it's like mud earthiness going on. It's not too much. It's a wonderful accent. It doesn't overpower the whiskey. Now, the next question I have for myself is, do young Waterford whiskeys and peat smoke go together well? I would say they go together. This is still way too young. Imagine another year, maybe a year and a half. That would have been great. But I really, really think Mark Linné wanted to have the fame, the claim to fame, the first person to use Irish malt, Irish peat in a Irish whiskey. So don't forget, with him we had Port Charlotte, with him we had Octomore, with him we have the Bruichladdich. That's where everything started in his whiskey career. And now he's following the flavor and he's getting the best barley in the world, apparently, from Ireland. Now, what I like to do is compare, and what I want to do with this video is just to compare very briefly my Talisker 10. I am not the biggest fan of Talisker 10. Port Ree, nice. 18-year-old, now prohibitively expensive. But yes, they really interact with each other. The Fenniscourt makes this worse, and the Talisker 10 makes this better. Of course, it's 45.8. Talisker is always basically 45.8 unless it's a special release from Diageo. This is much sweeter. This has more salt. The maritime seaside aroma is much stronger here. There's none of that here. The peat used here apparently came from a close to the seashore moment. The peat here was inland and a totally different peat monster altogether. I really have my problems evaluating this. I am not the peat head, but yet I would say that this could be a solid C whiskey. The value for money, D. If you have 80 euros, you can go out there, go buy a lot of other stuff that tastes a whole lot better. Can you go out there and buy a peated Irish whiskey that tastes better? Well, in Germany, I can. Over in Ireland with two stacks, I can. There are certain from Great Northern Distillers, certain bottlings out there with interesting peated whiskey from Ireland. But is it going to be an Irish peat? No, probably not. And I'm sure of the 40 some different distilleries out there, we're going to have a lot of different peated expressions coming out. Sligleve up in Donegal or other places are just making exclusively peated whiskey, which is really, really good. Now, that's my question. Irish whiskey and peat. Is that for you still one of the things that you have to wrap your head around? Or is it something you actually embrace with open arms? Or are you a little bit like me that you kind of go, well, I thought that was one of the, so bourbon, there's hardly any peat, yay. Usually with Irish whiskey, except for Connemara, there wasn't really any peat, so I could live with it. And now peat is slowly creeping into the Irish world that I love. I'm not going to fight it, but I'm not going to welcome it either. I'm going to try to tolerate it at the moment. That's me. Okay, I have the stance of toleration. So I'm not going to embrace it. I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to tolerate it because I know there's a lot of people out there that do like the peat, do like that smokiness, and for them, apparently that's going to be a big market. All right, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for liking, subscribing, telling others, and I love what Waterford is doing. I don't always love their whiskeys. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I love the ethos. I love what they're trying to do, but often the result doesn't yet tickle my palate like it should. But never give up. Maybe one day it will. All the best. Whiskey Jason here. Bye-bye.